talk about what kind of rules would be helpful for the Jews to be free, to learn how to be free.
Don't fight with friends. Don't kill animals or nature just to see it suffer. Treat people with respect.
These Torahs we've been working on since the very beginning, right? Each story that we've learned about the Torah, we've then illustrated and put in our own one.
Born to sing your praises in your holy, holy spaces. My Tovu, bless the morning. My to oh 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 wow 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 wow.
How many people have sisters? Who's got sisters? Who's got brothers? Who's the only child? Whoa, are you only? No, you got.
No, I've got brother.
Brother.
He's the youngest, and he has an older sister and 3 older brothers.
What's your favorite food?
I don't. Good question. Ice cream. Noodles.
Oh, yeah.
French fries. Candy. My softa's potatoes. Mashed potatoes.
What's a softa?
Softa means grandma in Hebrew.
Oh.
She has a cat, 2 hamsters, and 2 hamsters, and she goes to Springside. She just moved this year to Springside.
I want you to share with each other one thing that you like, but instead of saying it, I want you to try to show it.
All right.
Dancing.
Swimming.
Drawing.
Think it's easy to be here? Okay, I'm going to give you the opportunity to stand in my position and to teach this class. And I want you to demonstrate for me behavior from teachers that you don't like. In other words, kind of your worst nightmare, the ways that you would not like to be treated, behavior that would shut you down, make you not feel expressive or creative or participatory, okay?
Okay, class. This period you're going to work by yourselves alone.
Is there something wrong with you? I mean, can't you understand anything? Is there anything in here?
What is your problem?
I actually saw a teacher hit a child with a book.
Boys and girls, today we're going to learn Hebrew. Some teachers are very patronizing of our intelligence, and it bothers me.
Some teachers just stand around and lecture you the whole time, and they talk about things. First of all, you're not interested, but you'd be willing to listen if they talk for a short amount of time and let you talk.
Sarah? What? Do you want to explain to me why you've just thrown this paper ball at me?
It wasn't me.
I really don't like it when teachers don't respect you because they make such a big deal about how you have to respect them. The whole respect thing, it's like a two-way street. I think what makes a good teacher is when the teacher is really funny and knows when to work and when to have fun and not puts on an act.
I think a good teacher uses variety when they teach, and also they move at a fast pace, but when a kid has a question, they spend some time to explain it and do a little bit of one-on-one work.
I think a good teacher is someone who can listen to kids and answer all their questions and who really respects the kids for themselves.
I think a good teacher is a teacher that lets their students know that they care about their students without actually saying it, but by showing it.
I think a good Hebrew school teacher has to be very open-minded, and they have to understand that religion can be a very touchy subject, especially at this age, and they have to realize that not everyone's going to believe exactly what they believe.
To be current with the kids, you have to know the popular songs and what's in and what's out, and that way there's some identification process that goes on there.
We can spend a lot more time and have a much deeper discussion about God or about Messiah if we can talk about what that has to do with Terminator 2.
I keep my finger on the pulse of their feelings. I try to put myself in their position all the time.
See your children, your students, as they really are. Talk to them, not at them. That sounds cliche again, but really see what they're going through, meet them where they're at. Utmost is that you touch their lives. That's the main point, that you touch their lives, and that you can touch their lives through the way you treat them, through your respect.
Instead of going this way in Hebrew, we go this way. Boys and girls, I'd like you to line up at the door so we can walk out and walk back in for Hebrew. So we start with Hebrew, and that's really pedagogically the most difficult part of the day for them, because it's just so new and so different, and it requires a lot of their attention. When I take my coat off in the morning and hang it up, didn't stay. What do I need to hang my coat up? What do I need, Emma? I need a hook. Well, I brought a hanger with me today. You watch. Now, do you think my coat is gonna stay up now?
Yeah.
All right. Now, what it's missing is the vowel. And the vowel that it's missing is the vowel for ah. Now, what would happen if we tried to just hang the vowel there without so much as a hanger? Lily? You think so? All right, let's count to 3 and I'll let go and see what happens. 1, 2, 3.
You're right.
You're right, it fell. I'm going to write an olive on the board. And then we're going to see what happens. Think it'll stick?
No. Yes.
I'd like you to take your pencils, and I'd like you to make one line of olives for me.
Just one.
Just one, and then I'll come around and take a look. Watch Mr. Rosengard make an olive. 1, 2, 3. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Any questions? Beautiful. Who had a question? What?
Good job. See a little more than you do, okay, buddy?
2, 3. That's a good job. 1. Start. 1, 2, 3. Right, trace over Mr. Rosengard. Start here. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Here, we're going to do some Gimel walk. We do kind of goofy things. And, I mean, the only way to keep a 7-year-old tuned in for 2.5 hours, I don't care what you're doing, is to keep it fun. My classroom is set up in a way that we move from station to station. We have Hebrew in one place, arts and crafts in another. Then they have a music session with a music teacher. Get ready! Oh baby, hey, Venu, Shalom Aleichem. Aleichem, hey, Venu, Shalom. One more.
Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom.
Then we come back, we do some lesson that relates to the Parsha HaShavua. Before we read the Torah, we're going to say our Torah blessing. Everyone ready? I say, Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMavorah. And you say, Baruch Adonai HaMavorach Le'olam Va'ed. And the Lord called Moses from the mountain, saying, You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. What do you think that means, on eagle's wings? Leah?
Fast.
Fast. Teaching Sunday school is like being a trial attorney because most jurors want to be somewhere else, so I guess that starts with most of the kids in your classroom. But you have a relatively short time to get your point across, and then you lose them.
If I'm ready and I'm prepared and enthusiastic, they're going to stay with me.
Do a lot of variety. Bring in speakers, do crazy stuff with art. Anything, as much as a kid is like a senior in high school, still loves to get in there and do finger painting. So try and don't just think that just because a kid's older, they can't do fun kid stuff. And I think the number one thing is that if you love what you're doing, that's going to come through more than anything else.
First rule, nobody talks when somebody else is talking. Raise your hand if you have something to say and I will call on you. Certainly nobody talks when I am talking.
Who remembers what some of the rules that we decided for our class at the beginning? Estee.
Have fun was at the end.
Have fun. That was one of our rules, that we were going to have fun. That's right.
Don't be an airhead.
An airhead? Was that a rule?
Yeah.
Yeah? They all made their own? You guys all made your own rules.
Don't fall off your chair. No fake burping.
No fake burping. Why did you guys make up that rule?
Because everyone was doing it.
And but burping and falling off the chairs, because these were the rules that you made. You decided not to do them because how did that make the class when those things would happen? What would happen in class?
Get out of hand.
Yeah, it was wild.
I only have one rule, and that is never do anything in class that you know I wouldn't want you to do. That rule really works, because if somebody breaks it, I can say, well, you knew I wouldn't want you to do that, didn't you? And they either say yay or nay. If they say nay, then I say, well, now you do know, don't you? Okay? And that rule seems to suffice for almost every given circumstance and doesn't require a lot of explanations. And also, it gives me a certain amount of flexibility in terms of some things which just aren't all that terrible. Teacher asks the question, what were Nathan Hale's last words? And Johnny answers, ah! I'm the teacher, I have two choices. What are my two choices? One is I can come down hard on Johnny and say, I'm writing a note to your parents. I don't want any more of that. Right? Or the other thing is I can just laugh.
We were talking about Moses before, we were talking about the plagues. Baria, please, what was that comment? What did you say?
I said, you're a plague.
Aha, I'm a plague, that's great. Okay, all right. Okay, we were talking about that, Moses and the plagues, 10 plagues. We're talking about, you guys, what's going on over there?
No, you're IRCBN.
Oh my God, what are you talking about?
Okay, what's the issue?
No,
Baria, what's the issue? What's he onto you about?
If you used the X-100, you would have gotten totally nuked. He bombs Cairo. Great, so what?
That's why the X-100 has
Okay, guys, I think you're both absolutely right. Okay, could you relate that somehow to Moses? How does that relate to, if Moses had those type of missiles, which ones would he use? So we were talking about that, Moses and the plagues and.
I like it.
All right. So let's bring it back to the plagues though that we were talking about before. Okay, so we got all this violence.
Plague, radiation sickness.
Radiation sickness could have been an 11th plague. What could have been some other plagues? It's a great response. Good response. Yeah. Baria, could you come over here, please? Look, I really want you to stay in the class, okay? We'll talk about this in terms of the interruptions and that, so I need to separate the two of you for a while, okay? I want you to sit right over there, but I do want you to stay in the class, all right? Okay? Go have a seat over there. Take it easy. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so let's get back to the plagues we were talking about beforehand. Excuse me, Baria? Look, I'm not going to ask you again to cut the chatter out, okay? Otherwise you'll have to stay after or do the extra work or cut your break privileges or something, okay? I want us to work together, but we need to do that together. I don't want to have to be on you all the time, okay? Thanks.
Instead of responding immediately, you might want to say to the child, why don't you go sit over there for a moment while I think about how I want to handle this. This was unacceptable. This way, you don't respond with a discipline action which may be inappropriate. Maybe you don't know why the child did this. Motivation is important.
Nothing is happening in that classroom that isn't happening somewhere else in that child's life. If you step back and take a look at what's happening in that child's family situation, you talk to the parents, you talk to the religious school director, you get a better view, it helps you cope, and you can respond better to that child once you know what the totality of the circumstances are.
I think it's important to always have a handle on what is developmentally appropriate for the children that you're working with, because it's true that there is a lot of influence on how children behave and what's going on in their lives, but it's also it's what's developmentally appropriate for a child. There's times I take them outside and we don't have much time for a real long break or something, but I'll just say, okay, who wants to run? You know, we run from that point to that, run and run back. And they're like, who can get there first, come back and forth and everything. And I thought, you guys ready to go back? And yeah. And they come in and they sit.
I was given an assignment to do supposedly the most difficult class. They had already fired, 2 teachers, or had gotten 2 teachers fired. And I said, I'm not going to do this as a regular class. The kids would jump around or lie on the floor. And I said, the thing that I'm not going to pay attention to is them lying on the floor if they're participating. And it worked.
Give me a difficult kid that has passion about something. I don't care if he's ranting and raving in the classroom. Like, I can handle that.
Do your students, do they love you? Do they love me? Yeah. Of course I love them. Do they?
I think the time for family education is ripe. I think a very essential element in Jewish life is ritual, and that ritual is very home-based, and that the repertoire of Jewish ritual is so amazing. It's just a rainbow. It's an amazing tapestry there. But that a lot of people don't know how to do it anymore. And so they're looking to the synagogue to provide that for them. It's really a potential re-entry point into the world of Jewish ritual, which they can then take back. But then, for example, one of my children in her class took home with her from Hebrew school a Shabbat box with all the basic ritual elements and with a tape. And I thought that was a terrific idea because the blueprint was all there with great clarity. It was safe. Nobody was looking over your shoulder to see if you could do it right or not. You could even just put the tape on and listen to it. And it was I think it was a very powerful teaching medium. And that was really family education.
Yom means day.
Okay. Any other words that you recognized?
HaShabbat is the Sabbath.
Okay, good.
I just did a text study in which the parents and the kids, they were working with their own kids, would study some text, and then we'd come together as a group and we would have a discussion, and I had study questions. But I found for one thing, obviously the kids are much more focused when the parents are there. I think that I was providing the parents with a really new experience. I'm sure they relate to their kids in a variety of ways, but to really sit down to study Torah with their kids, for a lot of these parents, was the first time that they ever did something like that. I sort of joked earlier about we should have the parents come to Hebrew school, but I think that for a lot of the parents, they don't know Hebrew. And some of the basic stuff the parents don't know. And in many ways, the kids are having a much richer education than the parents do.
By the fact that I'm a parent and a teacher, I have a status that permits me to say to other parents, you have talents that we can use, and we'd like to see you come in and be part of what we do. And I think a lot of them are afraid that under the spotlight of being in the classroom or being in front of a group, they in some way won't be able to perform in a way that meets their own standards. But parents have a tremendous amount to offer, and as a resource we ought to be using more and more of them. I find that when we do get parents in the classroom to talk about experiences, it richens the program.
Very early on in my teaching career, I began to realize that there can never be any assumptions. You can't assume that you have 2 Jewish parents. You can't assume that you have 2 parents. You can't assume that you have 2 parents, 1 mother and 1 father. You might have 2 mothers or 2 fathers or any real variety. And I think you have to be really aware of that. Kids are extremely emotional beings, and you might set something off. Embarrassing a child or making a child feel uncomfortable can be incredibly devastating. And so whenever I introduce something or ask the kids to include their parents or bring something home to their parents, I somehow make it clear that I am not assuming that they're bringing it home to a Jewish mother and a Jewish father.
An important thing to do when a child says something like, we have a Christmas tree at home, is to acknowledge how valuable it is for that child to respect whoever that Christmas tree comes with. It's nice that you celebrate Christmas with your grandmother, or some other affirming comment, and then to draw the child back to where he or she is and to say, and it's also really special that you're here, and that your parents want you to be here and they want you to learn to be a Jew.
Okay, guys, terrific job. Let's have our break and some snack.
If we only reach one, if we only reach one student, if we only reach one student, Dayenu. If we only plant some seeds for Jewish futures, plant some seeds for Jewish futures, Dayenu.
Die, Dayenu, die, Dayenu, die, Dayenu, 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 die, Dayenu, die, Dayenu, die, Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu.
When we see the fruits of all our labors, see the fruits of all our labors, Dayenu.
And along came the dum da 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 dum dum da 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 dum dum da dum 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 da 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 dum dum, which flew the dum dum da dum dum da dum da dum da dum, which killed the zip zip which zipped the moo moo, which drank up the drip drip which put out the burn burn, which burned the knock knock which knocked the woof woof, spit the meow meow which ate the meow meow, which daddy bought me for two jingling sky.
Any final words for us of wisdom?
Yes, I hope you choose to follow the Sabbath. There.